Next up is Justine Brennan. Justine is 29 years old. She works in cybersecurity sales, though in her video, she talks a bit more about like tech. She's a tech worker as well from, I believe it is Marina del Ray, California.
Okay. All right. Justine. Anything else you want to set up about Justine?
Yeah, so Justine,
Here she
the
is.
main thing to take away from Justine is that she is definitely more than meets the eye. She really talks about this a lot in her 1 minute video of like she may be perceived on the surface as someone who always has her hair done, has her nails done, but like ever since a young age, she's gone dirt biking, has gone fishing, certainly a bit of a tomboy, but she's hoping that perception will work for her as well when it comes to, how she's viewed and how she'll be able to defy expectations.
All right. Let's hear from Justine.
Why are you here on Survivor?
I am here on Survivor fulfilling a childhood dream of mine. I was 7 years old when the first season came out. And I remember being a kid. That was like the one night I was able to stay up late in the week. And so my entire family would just like park it in front of our small TV in our living room. And it was kind of like a family thing for us, every single week. And so it kind of has a sentimental value to it. And I just never thought it was in the realm of possibilities for me to actually like apply and then make it on Survivor. So I'm here pursuing my childhood dream that I never even thought could be a reality.
What's your history with watching Survivor?
Yeah, so I grew up watching Survivor in the early seasons. I probably watched the first 15 seasons with my family. And then I kind of lost touch with it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to stand here and say like, oh, I'm just like a raging super fan. But I mean, I still have seen probably half the seasons. It played a big part, obviously, in my childhood. And then once the lockdown happened, I kind of lost touch with it. I didn't really keep up when I was in high school and college, but then the lockdown happened and my roommate and I, her name is April. She's one of my best friends from college, but we had nothing else to do. So we actually blew up an air mattress and just put it in our living room in our apartment in LA. And we kind of had like sleepovers every night, even though we were in our I guess like early, late 20s. But it was kind of fun just like having sleepovers with your best friend again. And we would just binge watch Survivor and try to act out some of the challenges in our living room. So I kind of fell in love with it again. And I have mutual friends with Adam Klein, actually. He went to Survivor. He went to Stanford with one of my really good friends. And I remember when his season came out, she was like, oh yeah, we're having watch parties for Adam. And I was like, hold on, like normal people can go on Survivor. And that's kind of what sparked the fire.
Mailbox. So now the logic's confusing here. Wait, so now normal people can go to Stanford or can they not?
I thought she said normal people can go to Survivor.
Right, but I think she's saying like, oh, Adam Klein went to Survivor, and she's like, wait, normal people can be on Survivor, but according to Dwight, if you go to Stanford, you're not perceived as being normal.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now this is going to be something that they'll have to work out. And what was wrong with the people that were on Survivor before Adam Klein?
Exactly. I love that though. It does feel like almost every season there's an Adam Klein connection. I'm trying to remember who from like the past 2 seasons I think also talked about like having Adam Klein as a friend in common. I mean, I know, listen, Adam is working in casting on other shows, but like he certainly has his finger in the Survivor pie as well.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I think that he is the survivor that launched 1,000 ships.
Apparently so. It's wild to think about. He was such a game changer in that way, to the point where he was the quote unquote normal guy that had Justine brain bust and realize, oh my God, wait, I could actually apply and be on this show.
Okay. All right. Back to Justine.
Obviously, the pandemic happened, and it kind of encouraged me to apply and just see what happens. So that's why I'm here.
Give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most.
Okay. So one Survivor winner that one that I identify with, I mean, I think the obvious one would be Erica, because I think aside from Gabby Pascuzzi, was one of the first Filipinas to be on the show, and obviously she won. So I really resonated, like her story resonated with me of how, her family moved to Canada from the Philippines, and her parents, worked their asses off to give her and her siblings everything that they could. So her story resonated with me, but also in another way, in a different way, like Parvati also kind of resonates with me. and not really the flirtatious side of her, because I'm totally that type of girl. I'm like not a girl at all, but that she was able to really connect with other people in her seasons, and like even other females, like she was really able to gain their trust and just kind of be like a soundboard for them. So there are a few different winners that I identify with in different ways. In a non-winner that I identify with, I'd have to probably say Mike White. He, I thought, was just hilarious. Like, I think that, I mean, obviously I'm not out there on the beach struggling to survive yet, but I personally am a very sarcastic person. I like making witty comments. Like, I like to make people laugh and like throw out punchy one-liners. And I felt like Mike had such a dry sense of humor that was really kind of overlooked. And I really appreciated that. So I really liked him, even though he didn't win.
Mailbox.
She's a fan.
What's your fate? She's a fan. Yes. Now the question is, Rob, like, is she gonna look at Cody and be like, I could see that guy in the White Lotus. My Mike White fandom is tingling.
Yeah, maybe. I know she didn't say that she has gone on and watched all of his other works. But yeah, that would be an interesting connection.
I mean, I for some reason I just never thought we'd get like an outright Mike White reference as like a non-winner. But I think it all maybe also speaks to hopefully Justine will be like a similar source of comedy as well out there.
That's a high bar.
It's listen, very high bar to clear. I think that I will admit when she talked about Parvati and resonating in the same sentence, like all I can think about is Natalie Bolton. That's all I can think about. It's just a trigger word for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And how does her game resonate to the air mattress?
Exactly, to April at the air mattress acting out the challenges.
Okay. All right. Back to Justine.
What's your favorite moment in Survivor history?
I would have to say probably in one of the early seasons, I think it was Micronesia. Yeah, because that was the one that Parvati won. Probably when Natalie convinced Eric to give his immunity to her. And they obviously had built this all women's alliance, the Black Widows Brigade. And she was like, that's absolutely never going to happen. I think it was, who was it? Amanda that like pitched her the idea. She was like, if you want to stay in this game, like you're obviously on the outs, like you need to convince Eric to give you his immunity because he had just won the immunity challenge. And she was like, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's not going to happen. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And she was like, whatever, it's worth a shot. And she ended up convincing him to do that. And obviously like he got kicked out and it's probably known as, you know, one of the stupidest moves that anyone's ever made on Survivor. But that honestly was just such a funny and cool moment because obviously I'm always rooting for the girls.
What's one life experience you feel has prepared you most for the game?
So I wouldn't really pin it onto one specific life experience that has happened, but my overall upbringing. So neither of my parents came from even middle-class households, I would say. Like my dad came from probably like slightly below middle class, and my mom was just like, she was poor and from the Philippines. And so when my parents met, they met at work and they obviously got married, had 2 kids. They still didn't have anything to their names. Like they didn't have anything that was passed to them from their family. Obviously they came from lower middle class or poor families. And so I really learned the value of, you know, if you want to accomplish something, if you want something, you're going to have to work for it. And so I think that can really apply to a bunch of different things in Survivor of like, you know, if people are being complacent and lazy and not really helping build shelters, like if I want to sleep at night and be protected from the rain, I'm going to have to do that. And also just like me even making it on Survivor, if I want to accomplish a dream of mine, the first step is applying. And then, you know, you'll never know, you might actually end up on Survivor. And that's what happened. So it's really that value of just like hard work that was instilled in me from my parents at a young age that I think will really help with all things here.
What excites you the most about the new era of Survivor?
What excites me the most about this new era of Survivor is just really not knowing what to expect. And like, yes, there's this new era where in seasons 41 and 42, there have been all of these new twists and turns introduced, but I would be shocked if they repeated any of those for our season, because now we're going to be specifically listening out for weird phrases that people are saying. And We know what happens on Shipwheel Island when people get sent away on like a journey. So there's a new era that has been shown in the last 2 seasons, but I think for our seasons, they're definitely going to be switching it up a bit because now we know what to expect, which is really exciting because we don't know what's going to be thrown at us. And it's really cool that now, with these seasons, there are little kids like what I once was at 7 years old watching these seasons and being like, oh, like this is Survivor. Like to them, this is Survivor. So it's really cool that, I get to be part of this new era. But for little kids out there, I probably am like the Boston Rob or the Amber or the Rudy to them. That might be giving myself too much credit, but we'll see.
Mailbox. Yeah.
So many Survivor All-Star references today. Who would have thought?
Yeah. That boy, I hope that Justine isn't the Rudy to some little kid. Like
yeah. What's that old lady doing out there?
Yeah. And Mike, for these kids today, it's not the new era. It's just the era.
Exactly. Because then they'll be playing. Then it'll be the new era.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's just time. Time is relative when it comes to these things. But so let's talk about some of the stuff that Justine had been speaking about. So she talks about this idea of her parents really coming from humble beginnings and like instilling this idea that you have to work hard to get exactly what you want. Obviously, hustling works really well in a game like Survivor. Justine, I think, is a little enigmatic to me. We'll get into it a little bit, actually, with her final question of, like, what do you think people will perceive you as? What I think pinked for me a little bit is in her 1-minute video, she talked about how she's been an athlete her entire life. And she says, actually, the most fun I have will probably be doing the challenges. Again, she talked about doing them in her living room. So we could be looking at, like, a Lindsay Delashewicz type, like someone who actually could be a surprising physical presence, which I think could also help her early on in the game.
What's her athletic background? Because Lindsay was, a dietitian, but also like was very much rooted in like a physical fitness background.
Yeah, she says essentially all she says is just like, I've been an athlete my entire life, but I do think that my entire life is like, oh, I played I played Pee Wee basketball until I was 8 years old and then I stopped, right? It seems like this is something that she has been doing throughout, which I think definitely helps, especially in comparison to maybe some of the other people on her tribe that may not be like as physically adept. I could see if there were any reasons to like get rid of people early on, especially if they're losing challenges and have to look at like physical weakness. I do not think that would be a reason to get rid of Justine.
Okay. All right. Back to Justine.
What do you think people will perceive you as?
Oh, I don't know what people will perceive me as. I mean, I'm just going to go there. When I first found out that I got to, come on to Survivor, I got that phone call. I was like dissecting every part of my being. I was like, how do I want to act? Like, what do I want my persona to be? And then that honestly made me lose sleep at night because I was like, how do I want to be perceived? I was like really overthinking it. And I ended up coming to the decision that like, I'm just going to go on there. I'm just going to completely be myself. I mean, I'm typically pretty good at making friends. I'm pretty happy with who I am as a human. So I hope that other people that see me don't hate me. I have no idea how they're going to perceive me, but my entire, I guess, really storyline of coming onto this show is that I'm more than what meets the eye. Like, I think people see me and I usually have
like the Transformers.
My hair done, my nails done, makeup done. I'm in a cute outfit, but when it comes down to it, on the inside, I actually am kind of a tomboy, and I was raised kind of a tomboy and like a kind of no shit, like very athletic person. So I hope that, I don't know. I don't know how people are going to perceive me, but I hope it's not a negative thing.
And that is the Transformer herself, Optimus Justine.
Optimus Justine. When she says that she's gonna no S word, was that KNOW or NO S word?
I think it's NOS word, right? Of like doesn't really take any crap from anybody. And again, she talks about her athletics. It's a little unspecified, but I think again the thing that she keeps touting is like almost this undercover tomboy aspect of how people might look at me and think that like I don't want to get my hands dirty, but put me on tough as nails because I might as well be part of Dirty Hands.
Yes, okay. And we'll see if she's ultimately part of the Savage crew.
Yeah, we shall see. So yeah, I think that Justine, I think my initial impression was just like I wasn't entirely sure about her, much like she's not entirely sure about how she'll be perceived, that it really just
Yeah.
could go either way. I wasn't getting like a huge taste of her, I would say, like just getting a sense of the interview. But I think putting things together, and especially again that really physical portion that she's talking about, I could see her actually cut a pretty wide swath in this game where there was a winner of a recent season of Survivor South Africa who was very similar, I think was perceived as a bit of like that glamour girl, certainly likes to be pampered, but like had an athletic background, was somebody who had that tough grit to her, but because of that underestimation and also social skills was able to like get in, have a couple things break her way, and then eventually win when she needed to make her way to the end, and then win fairly handily. And I think Justine has a very similar skill set in that regard.
Okay. Mike, what else do we know from her bio?
So Justine has maybe one of the most interesting accomplishments that she is most proud of.
Okay.
She says, "My parents let me borrow their 20-year-old Lexus SUV a few years back,
Oh
and I
boy.
immediately ran the passenger side door into a 4-foot tall concrete pole by making a sharp right turn and not seeing it in my blind spot. To fix the destroyed door would have cost more money than the car was worth, so I looked at websites of a few junkyards, found one that had a 2000 gold Lexus LX 470, bargained it down from 750 to 400, and installed the new door on Thanksgiving Day. Aside from the passenger window now being tinted, it was like the accident never happened."
Yeah. Speaking of tough as nails, was this a tough as nails challenge?
Exactly. They had a wang dang doodle trying to replace that door and finding the
She
carburetor.
replaced the door or she had it replaced?
I mean, I'm assuming she had it replaced, so I don't know. Like, she ordered it from a junkyard. Was there like a service person that came with them to do that installation? Because otherwise,
This is very
again, talk about
impressive.
getting
She
your
put a
hands
car
dirty.
door. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess that shows a lot of skills, right? Ingenuity, negotiation, lying. This
Yep.
might be one of the most wild claims to fame that I've heard, in a bio in recent times.
Outside of the Jonas Brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll see if she's able to replace allies as easily as she's able to replace doors in the game of
Mm-hmm.
Survivor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, all right. That's a good story.
Here's another thing that again speaks towards the athleticism. What is something we would never know from looking at you? I think a lot of people think I'm an unathletic girly girl, but my dad raised me to be the son he never had. I grew up racing dirt bikes and going to fishing derbies, and at my high school's traditional junior versus senior girls powder puff football game, I put a girl in a headlock and tackled her to the ground. Parentheses, there's photo evidence.
Okay. Well, that's a penalty.
Well, I think, long gone are the days, right, of like physical one-on-one face-offs, especially given the three tribe new era mentality. Otherwise, like Justine would be in her heyday. She'd have a
Mm-hmm.
literal, field day out there on the football field.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's good. What about pet peeves?
Pet peeves, a little bit more on the blase da side. When people
Mm,
walk slowly right in front of you, when you open the door for someone and they don't say thank you, when people are passive aggressive.
yes. What about when you replace the door for somebody and they don't say thank you?
Exactly. Well, they shouldn't say thank you, right? That was the entire goal, was like you don't want them
Mm-hmm.
to notice that they replaced the door. Here's a couple of other things that I think is interesting. Why do you believe you can be the sole survivor? So again, she has the athletic background. She does work in sales and touts her ability to have like a high EQ, right, in terms of interfacing with a lot of different types of people. She also is working in what is admitted to be a really male centric field, that she is oftentimes one of the only women on her team, which I do find interesting comparing to like her talk about the Black Widow Brigade, right? Of like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I'd love to see the girls do well. I don't know.
She's always rooting for the girls. Yeah.
We'll talk more about like obviously the other two characters. Do you
What's
think
her
that just
job though, Mike?
so she is in cybersecurity sales?
Okay, got it.
Do you think she is someone who, I guess, knowing what we know of the guy so far, that like could fit in here? I could see like maybe a possible partnership between her and a Cody or her and a Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, it could go. Again, I'm like I don't want to be like fancy Fencerton, but I mean, like with these we're talking about human beings, so you know, for whatever reason, like Jesse could like get the wrong vibe from her and not want to work with her, or vice versa.
Yeah, I would say of the two, I could see her vibing with Cody more. Again, she grew up like racing dirt bikes and fishing. Cody said in his bio that like his bottom teeth are fake because his brother and him were doing some dingbat stuff and he knocked out a bunch of his front teeth on an ATV. So like I think they do vibe a bit similar in terms of that kind of like daredevil get dirty mentality. And again, if Cody's talking about working with opposites, the way that Justine comes across is very oppositional to that. And so I think maybe I'm circling the drain as to like her being the number one that he is seeking out right now. She also says, which past survivor will you play the game most like? Either Kelly Wentworth or Joe Englum. Joe was obviously an insane competitor at the individual challenges, but he also proved
half
himself
right.
to be yeah, exactly, a necessary part of the tribe with how resourceful he was. Both were generally likable people to their tribes. It's necessary to perform things like blindsides in order to keep yourself in the game, but I think Kelly and Joe both played in a lawful enough way that wasn't anywhere near as manipulative as other people like like Sandra or Tony. Yeah, maybe lawful in order when it comes to some of Joe's beliefs.
Yeah, in the game. Yeah. All right. So I don't know. The cybersecurity background is interesting to me because I feel like that when we're talking about her, the rest of her, I do feel like that maybe she's like feeling like a little bit more like no collar. But then cybersecurity, I feel like is like I think I feel like that gives off like very like discipline.
Right, but I think sales might be the most like no collaring of
Sales,
the white collar positions, right? Because again, it's very interpersonal. It's very much meeting someone on their level and maybe getting a bit more unorthodox with things. Justine also has a psychology degree as well, which look, sometimes a degree is just a piece of paper on the wall, but like she has at least some sort of understanding of human behavior from an academic perspective. So the more I got to know about Justine, the more I like really
there's
grew to
more
like
than
her.
meets the eye.
Exactly. Now we just need like the all spark to pop up in Justine's chest as she goes into beast mode in these challenges.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was a little bit sort of like arrow pointing sideways, but I think I'm gonna ultimately walk away from this as the arrow more pointing up for Justine.